Hey, nothing wrong. You know the age-old motto, Jared. Better safe than sorry.
Oh, man. I'm just kidding, Chad. You know I'm just messing with you.
Better safe than sorry. Hello and welcome to the Untranslatable podcast. We are here today to talk about gender roles in different countries around the world. Today is going to be a hot and spicy episode. Some potential hot takes for today's episode. If you are a certified snowflake, you may want to turn this episode off. If you are taking us too seriously, you may also want to turn this podcast off as well, because this is supposed to be here for a good time and maybe learn something new from some other cultures and perspectives. So stay tuned today, because we are going to talk about some different gender perspectives. And my man who is not afraid to stretch the limit, my good buddy Jared. What's going on, Jared?
Stretch the limit. That's true. Oh, yeah. We were talking about that during that whole, I was like, where did that come from? And I forgot when you weren't recording, I was telling you, like, you got to take it to the limit. That's true.
Yeah, that's right.
And I agree with that. Take it to the limit. Full send, as they say in the car world. Sometimes you just got to send it. By the way,
What's up, player?
welcome to the pod. Untranslatable podcast on Twitter. On Instagram. I actually posted a question today. I need the answer to this. It's been on my mind for days since we last recorded that episode. At the beginning of last episode, Chad and I were talking about how, are you going to look at the post?
Should I not?
Jesus Christ.
Should I
It's
not?
a video. You're not going to... I'm
I'm
about
not
to tell
gonna
you
watch it. Okay.
the conversation.
Let's hear it.
It's the conversation we had. So Let me just remind you of what we talked about. You don't have to go watch yourself. I already have to do that. You don't have to put yourself through that
A
as
little
well.
Chadception.
I posted a video on our Instagram asking about. It's been on my mind for a couple days. That's what I was going to say. This idea of not being able to pee at your campsite. Mm-hmm. I actually didn't check the responses. There probably are any. I posted it relatively recently, but I really needed to know, was I right or were you right about your being allowed to pee on a
Being courteous
campsite?
with your fellow campers.
Because you made it seem like it was some sort of rule. Then
Can
you
I
made
at
it
least
seem
check
like it was
if
some
there
sort
are
of
any
social...
responses?
Sure. Then you made it seem like it was some sort of social contract, and
It's a contract I hold with myself, Jared.
that's fine. If you don't want to pee, that's different. You didn't say that. You made it seem like you were not peeing because you were doing the right thing for your fellow campers, not because you didn't want to. But I disagree with this whole idea of the smell. I disagree with this whole idea of it being some sort of courtesy. I don't think there's really any serious problem. Animals are all around you. They pee all the time. All right, Chad's still just deeply into his phone to the point where I don't. Why is this so hard, Chad? Why is this so hard?
I can't find it. It was a story, right?
No, it was the last thing I posted. Just posted.
Oh, it was. I see that. That's
Jesus
why.
Christ.
Okay.
Chad,
Yep,
this
yeah,
is not.
no comment.
This is
We're
why I
good.
didn't want you to look at the phone.
We're good. All right.
This is why I didn't want you to look at the phone. Because
So did you do any other research on peeing at campsites? Find
no,
anything?
of course not, because I think I'm right. That's all I need. Oh, dude, guess what? I did do. So I was on LinkedIn, as I do sometimes, just to make sure some CEOs aren't checking out my LinkedIn. Never happens. And I saw that Albion College, our alma mater, I now, by the way, hey, there's the license plate frame. I've now find myself to be some sort of news source for you for all things Albion College. So I just want to update you on what's happening at our alma mater.
Uh-oh. Okay.
No, don't worry. Don't
Good or
worry.
bad? Okay.
I mean, that's up to you. Albion College to require a COVID-19 vaccine before returning to campus for the fall 2021 semester.
I find that interesting only because didn't they do in-person classes last year
They did do in-person classes last year.
without a COVID vaccine?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean people didn't get COVID. Let me read to you some of their press
Yeah, but you can still get COVID even with the vaccine.
I'm not their
can't
PR person. I'm not their spokesperson, Chad. Let me read to you their. You make it seem like I got the answers. Let me read to you their press release.
Okay,
I'll tell you what they say. This is from May 19th, 2021. Albion College, one of the top 50 innovative liberal arts colleges in the country, announced it will require. This is from Albion College's website, by the way. This is not a news article, just so you're clear.
You're reading it like a news article. It sounded good.
They're writing it like they're receiving some sort of lifetime achievement award. Announced it will require all students, faculty, and staff to be fully vaccinated against COVID-19 to return to campus for the fall 2021 semester. Albion College President Dr. Matthew Johnson made the announcement. The news follows a successful year of in-person teaching and learning during the pandemic. Throughout the spring semester, Albion College worked closely with the Calhoun County Public Health Department to facilitate the phased rollout of the vaccines to students, faculty, and staff, including sponsoring a total of 7 on-campus and nearby vaccination clinics beginning in March of 2021. Our focus has been and remains managing the risk associated with COVID-19 and prioritizing the health and safety of our entire campus community to ensure we are able to offer the in-person experience our students know and love, said Dr. Johnson. The vaccination requirement is a continuation of the commitment. We are extremely proud of the way our students and entire campus community have responded to our safety protocols, and we're eager to return to full in-person instruction for the fall semester. Albion College's proactive approach to risk mitigation was noted by Governor Gretchen Whitmer.
Big Gretch.
In her recent commencement address of the class. Wait, they got Big Gretch? Oh, that's a BS.
I know, dude.
The guy, we got sucked.
I don't even remember that guy. He was some Soup
He was the CEO.
Bro
he was the Soup Deventi. Oh yeah, no, not Soup Deventi. He was the CEO of the
Cafeteria Foods International.
Of the food, like of our food supplier, and he was just essentially talking about the success of his company. He's like, in the past 10 years, we've grown 15% year over year, and it's like, we don't care about your company. They got great. Anyway, sorry.
We didn't even like your food, bro. We left your cafeteria.
We left before they even got there. We were in Delft by the time because they switched sophomore year. We weren't even there.
Good.
Anyway. So prior to this announcement, there was overwhelming positive responses. Anyway, so to vaccine opportunities on campus in a student survey conducted in the spring, almost 80% of respondents indicated that they would like to sign up for a vaccine appointment, with close to 10% of additional respondents indicating that they had either already secured a vaccine appointment or been vaccinated. The majority of faculty and staff have also received vaccinations. Prior to arriving on campus in the fall, students, faculty, and staff will need to present proof of vaccination by August 1st, 2021. Further details regarding specifics for submitting documentation through a secure system will be communicated later this semester. All 3 vaccines, Moderna, Pfizer, and Johnson & Johnson, will be accepted. Medical and religious exemptions will be honored.
Well, there you go.
Announced earlier this year, Albion College will welcome students back for full in-person classes for fall 2021, with appropriate COVID-19 policies in place, as well as the return to the standard economic calendar. Economic. That's
academic.
What that's probably what the president typed. And he's like, oh shoot,
right? Academic, not economic.
That was a Freudian slip from the president that went to my head as well. Standard academic calendar. From the module approach taken last year. More details on Albion College's full Albion College approach to the fall 2021 semester, including important updates regarding blah, 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 will come later.
I'm calling it, dude. This year is going to be the start of the new Roaring 20s. I'm calling it.
I have some comments for you from LinkedIn, by the way, from the LinkedIn post.
About Albion? Okay.
This was early on when they posted. I don't know what the comments are now, but these are just some 3 of my favorites. Are you for real? Guess these Albion socialists should dust off their resume. Here's another one. Only educating sheep, the new Albion way. Sheep emoji. Sheep emoji. All right, here's the last one. If a student has previously been infected and has documentation that demonstrates antibody production in their bloodstream, surely they are already protected, ? That's not how it works, bro. No, get the vaccine. Even if you got it, you should still get the vaccine. It's just social media, I don't care what it is the worst, is what I was just trying to highlight. But I mean, it makes sense. And
I mean, they're definitely not the first university to do something like this.
Are they not? Are you just saying? Are you just guessing?
No, no, I've heard of tons of other universities who are doing the
like
vaccination.
Big ones?
Yeah. Yeah,
Any other Michigan ones?
Yeah, I thought either U of M or MSU. I thought both of them might.
Yeah, it's not surprising at all. It's like, of course.
Now, here's my thing, though, Jared.
Shit to go smoothly, this is how we got to do it.
Here's my thing, though. I think if you're going to require vaccines, you have to also be able to provide. What I mean by this is, like they said with Albion, having some clinics available, right? Because if you force your students to be vaccinated, but you don't, because look, not all students come from a background where they may not have a car, they may not be able to just go somewhere.
They did say that there are 7 on campus and nearby vaccination clinics.
That's my point.
March
That's my
2021.
point. Is I think if you can do that, I think
Albion's
that's fair.
a very small place, and they have 7 locations within.
So I think they'll probably
reach.
be fine.
So I think it's very doable that they're making it as easy as possible.
I mean, we'll really find out. I think, Jared. And now, granted, this is no scientific and medical advice here, but I think this upcoming school year and semester, if as many institutions as I think will go back to mostly face-to-face, it'll be a really good test to see how effective these vaccines are, at least within a 6 to 8 month span.
But I think even still now, I don't know the exact numbers. I honestly don't know. Are they I don't know if they're going down or not. But I feel like you should even be seeing it now theoretically.
Right.
But as far as but still for the most part, I imagine most companies still aren't back in person yet. So that too as well.
Right.
Because there are people because we are at a point now where it seems like everyone that wants to get the vaccine in the U.S. has gotten it. Now it's to the point where it's like sort of incentivizing and sort of coaxing other people.
People who don't want to be sheeple, Jared.
Exactly.
Well, you and I are sheeple. Yeah. What can I say?
But hey, socialist, if you're interested in a great liberal arts college, Albion College is the school for you. Apparently, top 50 innovative liberal arts colleges in the country. Come on,
which is funny because there are certainly there were a decent number of conservative students that I knew, at least at Albion.
Chad,
I'm not saying it's a conservative.
Chad, you make it seem like in our freshman year there was some kid burning a gay flag out behind the dorms or something. Come on. That's exactly what happened.
Which is exactly what happened. Yeah, yeah. Oh man, I think that was kind of before. By the way,
I saw that guy years later, just randomly in Grand Rapids, driving my car. I was like, "Holy crap!"
I think he was suggested on my Facebook, and I was like,
"Probably."
Really, this guy? Really?
That's not surprising. You do have
enough mutual friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, for sure. But yeah, that's interesting. I mean,
but I think liberal arts school in general. Is people when you hear a liberal arts college, the first thing you think is just like a bunch of socialist libs,
bunch of hippies,
exactly,
and libtards.
You don't even have to know anything about the school. It's just like, well, that's just like a super liberal school.
That's right.
Which I mean, hey, maybe times have changed. I'm not saying I'm super old, but I certainly never got the vibe that I was at like the most that I was not that it was some sort of like
indoctrinated.
Not that it was like overly conservative, but I certainly never got the sense that I was being like pushed a bunch of liberal propaganda. But hey, that's the best propaganda that's pushed to you. You don't even notice. So maybe they're. I was
going to say, Jared, I think Americans, we might be some of the most propagandized nation in the world.
It's a bold statement.
It is bold, but we could talk about that another time, though, Jared, because I got something kind of exciting I want to talk to you about. I came across this today on Reddit. A long time ago, you had asked me where I was finding a lot of my sources for our shout-outs, which is a lot of times coming from uplifting news on Reddit. Well, it turns out, Jared, that there is now a new kind of uplifting news on Reddit, but auf Deutsch, in German, called Gute Nachrichten.
Wow.
And there's some cool stuff on there.
Did you start it? Is this you
I
plugging
did not.
your new
That would be a
subreddit?
great idea,
We got
Jared,
4
but I did
followers,
not.
but it's really growing fast.
That's right. Five expected for tomorrow. No, I did not come up with this. I cannot take credit for this, but it's super awesome. And I want to read you the headline of this article, Jared.
Okay.
We can talk about it a little bit. And speaking of liberal arts college, I think we might have even had this at Albion back in the day. If you wouldn't mind translating this for me, Jared, going to put you on the spot here. Here we go. Hunde streicheln hilft beim Denken und gegen Stress.
I don't know what streicheln means.
Streicheln.
Oh, petting?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's certainly a term I never had to use. That.
That's because you were meeting all the American ladies when you were abroad.
Oh yeah. I still asked about petting a lot, just in English. What? Could you give it to me again? Now that I know that word, I can get the rest of it now. I need to hear it.
Hunde streicheln hilft beim Denken und gegen Stress.
So petting dogs helps with against stress and helps your thinking process essentially.
Yeah. Yep. So apparently, petting dogs. This
Just
article's
dogs,
from.
Because I could actually believe this perfectly, but you also got to I wouldn't believe it just dogs. I could see it with a variety of pets. Like I could see that with cats too.
Sure.
Especially since cats are even like they like to be lap creatures sometimes. You know,
sometimes
I
when
could
they
never
wanna be,
do
sometimes.
when there was a cat in this house. Every time he had a chance, he would try to jump on
Oh,
me.
I'm sure he would.
But the thing is, he would never. I guess he would never. Like it would take. Yeah, that's true. Okay, keep going.
Well,
I could see I could see it. You always try to get out of the desk too, and that would just be annoying.
The basset hound that lives here loves to come see you when you come visit as well.
Yeah,
I think there's something
luckily
about
your basset
animals.
hound can't fully jump on my lap like a cat
Well,
could.
you'd be surprised. She sure tries. That's
I can
for
imagine
sure.
she definitely tries.
But yeah. Okay, so here let me read some of this or translate some of this, and let's talk about it a little bit. So petting dogs makes people happy, and apparently it helps, and it also helps students to overcome their school stress, which was found out by a U.S. study. And you only need to spend about 10 minutes with a special therapy dog to, I guess, get the benefits of
what do you mean a
these
therapy
dogs.
dog?
Like a therapy dog. Like when
You mean a
we
dog?
were at Albion. Back when we were at Albion during midterms
I understand
or
when
exams.
I know what you're talking about. They brought those dogs and you were but
they're like specially trained therapy dogs. I think
so there's
for
a special,
people to just pet.
So you can't just it's not petting dogs is good for stress and whatever the other thing was and thinking process. It's specifically therapy dogs. There's a dog that's properly trained to be pet, but if you pet just some sort of wild domesticated dog that hasn't been trained on how to be pet, it's like, it doesn't do anything. That's just a stupid dog.
I don't think so.
That's
because
ridiculous.
This is a study, Jared. They have to have parameters within a study. So
I guess so. So they only had access to like these trained dogs.
Exactly.
They didn't just. They don't have
what
access
are they
to
going to
just
do?
some
Give
house
people
dog?
a survey and put cameras in their houses and observe how their dogs.
I feel so much better on a scale of 1 to 5. How calm do you feel? How
Right.
much are you thinking? I'm thinking 5.
Although I tell you what, dude, I feel like enough people love their pets where if you posted something online and if it went
Oh, of
viral,
course.
people for sure would like answer that survey. I'll tell you what though, dude, if I pet Prudence, the basset hound here for, 10 minutes, I'm definitely in a better mental space.
Yeah, for sure. I can imagine that. I can certainly imagine that. I get that. And you could certainly do it on social media. There's car Twitter, there's black Twitter, and there's certainly pet Twitter. That's probably one of the strongest Twitters of them all in the sub community. So you could something pet related, as long as you put like some cute video of a dog or pictures of dogs along with the survey, you'll be fine. You'll get
for
millions
sure.
easily.
So this was interesting though, Jared. So they actually, in this study from the therapy dogs that the college students were petting, they saw that the positive effects, I guess, of these therapy dogs lasted for about 6 weeks. Isn't that
you're only
crazy?
petting them for 30 minutes?
10 minutes.
10 minutes. Yeah, that's crazy. I don't understand. That is crazy. So maybe there are benefits from an untrained dog. They just don't last as long, but it doesn't matter because they're always around you. You know, it's like we can't guarantee you 10 minutes from some stupid dog that has no idea how to be pet. But from a dog that's specifically trained on how to be pet, we get 10 minutes. You know, it's kind of like, you know, Usain Bolt can run. Everyone can run 100 meters dash, but Usain Bolt can do it in, you know, whatever crazy time, and you can do it in 20 seconds. It can be done, but if you want to get it done right, you go to the professionals.
That's right. That's right. What's also interesting, so this article also mentions, though, how animals in general can really be helpful and give people a lot of strength, especially to think more positively, which I can tell you personally. I mean, just on a, you know, there's only the sample size is only one here, but still with you know, spending time with dogs or pets in general, I definitely feel like I'm in a much more positive headspace.
Yeah, but your dog's
afterwards.
not trained, you know. You don't know what you're talking about. Your dog's not trained to properly be pet. Your dog gets pet like a dumb dog, not like a well-trained therapy dog that they're using.
Based on these pictures in this article, Jared, I would argue that my dog is definitely a professional when it comes to this. That's for sure. But it was just cool to come across this article, read it in German, and also just check out this Gute Nachrichten subreddit.
Do you keep up with any German news outlets?
Back in the day, I used to read Spiegel once in a while. Lately,
is that the one when you're walking down the street? They have the boobies from the you can see boobies from the newsstand if you're walking by. You know that newspaper. That's the one you like.
Maybe, I don't know.
Okay, you've never seen that before.
I don't know if that's the Spiegel.
No,
I have seen that before.
It's not. I'm talking about Bills. That's what it is.
Oh, okay.
I was just kidding.
That's kind of like the German
But I thought you would understand the
it?
joke, but you didn't, so it didn't work, huh?
That's
yeah,
kind of like the German Inquirer,
but in Germany,
right? Yeah.
you could just have like nudity on newspapers, so like you could just see it walking down the street.
They're not prudes like
didn't
we
work.
are, Jared.
Sorry, I ruined it. It didn't work.
No, it's my fault. It's my fault.
It's my fault. It's my fault, and I'll tell you what I am doing. I'm slipping on gator piss. I got all the drops.
Oh, there we go. All right.
I just wanted to showcase that I now have drops. I'm very excited.
Nice. I'm excited as well. I do have one quick shout out though, Jared. I do want to give
to dogs.
Well, I guess, yes. But no, then I have another one.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard about this, Jared, but at least I saw in the news a couple days ago, when this episode drops, it'll be a week from now or a week and some change. The UK reported a few days with no COVID-related deaths. And I don't know if you've heard this, Jared, but I read this earlier today that there are actually several states in the US that have also reported 0 COVID deaths for the first time in months. Do you have any idea which states they might be, Jared?
No. Could you just tell me?
Yes. Maryland has reported its lowest new daily COVID-19 cases. Let's see here. So, no, sorry. The 0 deaths was Texas.
Texas?
Yes, Texas.
That's impressive. That's a gigantic state.
Yep. Texas, Arizona, Minnesota, and Massachusetts also recently reported COVID death-free days for the first time in months. Okay. So shout out to Texas, Arizona, Minnesota, and Massachusetts. That's absolutely awesome.
Yeah. Minnesota's a sleeper state. I feel like I'd enjoy Minnesota. You know, I could see myself liking Minnesota.
Always do a road trip there sometime. Just saying.
That's true, dude. That is very true. That's very true. We get there are a lot of lakes. Isn't that their slogan something about having a lot of lakes?
I think
the Land O'Lakes or something.
Yeah,
I'm
pretty sure Minnesota
has butter company.
Right. I'm pretty sure Minnesota has some meaning with lakes related to it or something.
It does. The land of many lakes. Anyway, let's get into the untranslatables.
Let's do it. And untranslatables are idioms, proverbs, sayings, axioms that don't always translate on a one-to-one basis into English, and we are your tried and true certified untranslatable professionals to decipher them for your listening pleasure. And I will get us started today, Jared, with a Polish untranslatable phrase. It is narobić bigosu, which means make big. I think it's bigos or bigos. It's a dish. It is like a kind of like a stew. Maybe that will help you out a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was about to say, if it's going to be a food, I'm going to need to know.
To make kind of stew.
Okay.
Or make bigos.
To make stew. Sorry, I'm pulling it up. I'm looking at it. Oh, wow, this is it's like a tomato-based stew, it looks like.
Well, I think it sounds like it's like everything but the kitchen sink kind of stew.
Yeah,
at least according to this untranslatable website where I'm at.
That's kind of what it looks like. Yeah. All right. Honestly, yeah, it doesn't look too appealing to me, but that's fine. It's not for me.
It's okay. Go with that. Go with that. What could that mean, Jared?
Oh, to make do with what you have. It's like
I could see where you would think that, but no.
Oh, damn it!
It's a very, very good guess, but no.
To make stew. Is that like to just get out of there? I feel like for some reason I was like to make like stew and run. I don't know.
No, we have an untranslatable that we created that is kind of similar with this one a little bit. Kind of.
We do. To make stew. I don't know. Is that to poop?
Nope.
I can imagine a little kid saying, "I need to make a stew." I got a stew. There's a stew brewing.
Let me put it this way, Jared.
I got a jambalaya brewing.
If you had a stew, if you had a stew brewing and you didn't take care of it in the right place, that is the untranslatable I was looking for. It means to make a big old steaming mess of a situation.
Ah, I see. I've really made a stew of it.
Yeah,
I see.
Yeah.
Oh, I made a stew of it. I know it's not a British one, but for some reason that's what I heard. I like that one. Oh, I made a real stew. All right.
It's a good one.
I have a Tongan one for you. I'm a big fan of these Tongan untranslatables. A lot of great untranslatables from there. I'll see which one I want to use. All right. Bupati tabuli zigilwi nigoma. You do not to sound a drum to mark the stage of your adulthood. You don't have to sound a drum to mark the stage of your adulthood. Let's put it that way.
You don't need to brag about something that's just normal.
No.
Dang. I was feeling confident about that one, Jared.
You do not need to sound a drum to mark the stage of your adulthood. I think that's a better translation of it.
You don't need to hide your age.
Imagine your parents telling you this. Chad, you don't need to, or like maybe this is a very maybe quarter life crisis sort of realization. All right, Chad, you've given up.
I got nothing, yep.
People must not wait to be told that they're adults. People must see it for themselves and change the behavior accordingly. So it's like, listen, you're an adult. You must act like now. It's time to act like one. Essentially, act like an adult.
Oh, so it's as obvious as okay.
You don't have to. You don't have to. There's not some sort of ceremony. So essentially, saying there's not some sort of big moment that tells you you're an adult, but you're an adult, and now you have to act like one. That's what it's saying.
Fair. That's fair. My next one for you is also Polish. Zrobili mnie w konia. I probably made that sound more Russian than Polish, but anyways, I was made into a horse.
I was made to look like a fool. You made me look like an idiot. I look like a fool.
Very good, Jared. You did not look like a fool figuring out that untranslatable.
What's
I'll
up,
give you
player?
That.
I don't have the ham horn.
That's good enough,
I'd
here.
say.
Yes. That'll work.
That's how I feel.
That'll do.
Time-wise, I don't really want to give any more. We don't need to just, drone on. I'm sure you'd like to give about 14 more, so please continue.
Let me give you one more.
Exactly. There we go.
Last one for you. Also Polish. Urwacy z Honci. Fell from the Christmas tree.
To what?
To fall from the Christmas tree.
Okay, so that's not what you said the first time.
I said fell because that's what it says here, but fall from.
Oh, okay.
Fall from the Christmas tree.
Fail. I was like, fail from the Christmas tree.
To fall from the Christmas tree.
Is that like to? It's like to miss. Just like to mess up, to make a huge mistake, to misstep.
Why might you make a huge mistake or make a misstep, Jared? What's one of the most obvious reasons why you make a mistake or a misstep?
Overly confident. Tried to take on too much.
Not quite.
That's why I am. I'm very confident, and I like to take on a lot because I know I can handle it. Then I fall from a Christmas tree. Because you're clumsy. You're an idiot.
No.
Okay.
It means, I love your confidence, though. But no, it means
You're an idiot.
to be uninformed.
I see.
Right?
I see.
If you don't know what you're doing, that's a pretty good reason why you make a mistake, I guess.
You see that a lot. Dude, you know what that reminds me of? You know who fell from a Christmas tree?
Who's that?
I think I played some of this for you a long time ago. You might not remember, but I played for you an interview between Ice Cube and Roland Martin. And Ice Cube, maybe I didn't, I don't know. But Ice Cube was talking about his platinum plan. Mm-hmm. And you could just, and Roland Martin was asking him some what seemed like relatively basic questions, and you could just see Ice Cube fall from a Christmas tree and not be able to answer these simple questions about this platinum plan that he was working on. And it was like, oh, this is getting hard to watch. He does not have the answers for even these, relatively simple questions.
That can be dangerous.
To fall from a Christmas tree. Ice Cube fell from a Christmas tree.
The good news is, though, Jared, if you tune into this podcast, it does definitely reduce your chances of falling from a Christmas tree very significantly.
My chances?
At least that. I was saying our listeners, people in general, their chances.
I don't know about that because I speak way above my pay grade all the time and talk about stuff I don't know anything about. So
can't aspire to do great things, Jared, unless you're, trying to speak above your pay grade here and there. And I think we definitely have our work cut out for us today, Jared, in today's topic, which is gender roles in different cultures and countries. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do this episode today, Jared, is because I came across this really interesting article on, believe it or not, on like sparkadobe.com. And this article was taken from a couple of different sources.
Is that a popular outlet?
No, Adobe. Like the PDF Adobe Acrobat.
You said
Adobe.
Spark Adobe, right?
Yeah, it's spark.adobe.com.
Okay, I've never heard.
Page, blah, blah, blah. But anyway,
okay.
So this article is titled Gender Roles in Different Countries by Cheyenne, I think Greenier. And it starts off with a picture of two gentlemen in what to the untrained eye, Jared, would look like maybe a plaid skirt with some stockings, but anyone with a little bit of cultural awareness would know those lads are from
Scotland.
That's right, laddie. And they're rocking their kilts. And I love that the article starts off with this, Jared, because I think clothing is a really interesting aspect of like gender roles in different cultures, right? Because in some countries and cultures, it's totally fine to wear certain things if you're a certain gender. And then in other cultures, you wouldn't get caught dead. Like, for example, a kilt in Scotland it's traditional. I don't know. I have no idea if people walk around just on a normal day in Scotland with a kilt. If they do, please let us know at untranslatablepodcast@gmail.com because that's definitely the world news we need right now, Jared. But anyways, what's also fascinating too, Jared, is things like high heels, like long stockings, perfumes, those types of things. Guess who used to wear those historically?
I'm going to guess men would be the answer.
Yeah. And nowadays...
what do you mean historically? Men still wear perfume. Cologne is just a perfume. Is there any real difference between cologne and perfume?
I think the only difference isn't cologne marketed towards men and perfume towards women?
Yeah, like I don't know if there's like any serious difference, like the difference between a virus or bacteria. Yeah, exactly. And I think all those things you said, men still wear. Men are still allowed, or not allowed, but like heels are still. If you see like a cowboy boot, a heel is an appreciated thing or a certain level of dress shoe. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't say that these are old school things. I think these are still, things.
Right.
But please continue with your article from Spark Adobe.
Okay, this was a really funny and interesting one, and it really made me think of the U.S. So they have a picture of what I'm assuming, I don't know what the league is called, but it's like that women's football league where they wear the skimpy outfits. But they tackle each other.
Yeah, that is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like a lingerie football league, basically. It's super ridiculous. And in America.
They get so intense too. Like obviously, but like I've seen a little bit of it, and granted, I've only seen highlights. So all I see is like those diving tackles where they scream in someone's face because I don't have whatever channel that is on channel 3468. Right. I don't have that channel.
That's the XXXFL football league or whatever.
ESPN 42
Exactly.
is not in my contract.
But you know what that made me think about, though, Jared, is that in the
But that's
U.S.
not even just.
especially.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, in the U.S. especially, I think it's just more accepted that, the ladies can play sports. In a lot of other countries around the world.
I disagree with that.
What?
That in the U.S. is. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sure. I don't agree with that at all. What are you talking about? There are plenty of sports teams in Europe and South America, and
yes. But what I mean by this, Jared, is I think overall there are more opportunities, and it's just more culturally accepted for girls to play sports, I think, in the U.S.
I'll take your word for it.
Than other countries because. So let's look at it this way, Jared. How many sports? So you lived in Germany. How many sports did a lot of the girls play in Germany?
Soccer.
What were like the common ones? Okay.
Soccer, volleyball, field hockey, tennis.
Maybe golf?
Yeah, probably. I don't care about golf. I never paid attention. There's another. Oh, basketball is pretty common too. Those are probably the common ones.
Okay. Well, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I'm wrong. But it does seem like, though, at least with high school sports that I know of, other than like football, most sports there is a guys and a girls team. Now, it depends on the school and the funding and everything else. But like I do know in China, for example, I was talking to a couple of my students during the final exams. And actually, by the way, when this episode drops, it will be a week after I've finally finished them. So I've gone through over 220 individual speaking exams.
Has anyone
so that
cried?
was something else. Only a couple tears of joy. No, there have been
That's
no
no fun.
There have been no tears of joy or of sadness, but maybe that's a good thing. But I do know my Chinese students were telling me, like, a couple girl students of mine were telling me that they think that there are certain sports that, and this is coming from them, they said that certain sports they believe that girls shouldn't play.
Like
and
what?
I think that's a cultural difference. Like ice hockey. We were talking about different sports, and I mentioned ice hockey there. I used to play hockey because one of the exam questions was, what do you like to do in your free time? And so one of my students, she said, oh, I love running. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. Do you play any sports? She's like, no, I don't really like sports. And I said, okay. And I said, do you watch any sports? And she said, once in a while, I'll watch basketball with my friends, NBA. And then she asked me,
more like a social activity. She's
Right.
not, it doesn't seem like she's very invested.
right. But then she asked me about sports that I had played in the past, and I said hockey, and she was like, oh, and she was like, do girls play hockey? Do girls play hockey in the U.S.? And I said, yeah. And she said, what? And I said, yeah. And she said, I don't think girls should play hockey. And I thought that was just a very surprising and interesting. Now, granted, I don't know if she understood that in women's hockey, I don't think the rules are they're not supposed to hit. I think there's
Really?
a little bit of yeah, I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure women's hockey, they can't check.
So they're not ripping each other's jerseys off, punching each other in the face?
I didn't say they're not allowed to fight.
Oh,
They might still be allowed to fight. I'm not
That's
sure.
ridiculous. They can't hit each other, but they're allowed to fight.
There's a lot of ridiculous rules in sports.
You can't check each other, but you are allowed to punch them in the face if they trip you.
Well, I mean, they would go to the penalty box.
Sure, of course,
Of
course.
But yeah. But yeah, it is interesting. Well, let me put it this way, though, Jared. I will say I do think in the U.S. we probably do have more. Once again, I could be wrong about this, but we probably do have more women's professional sports leagues than other countries. I would be willing to bet that because I do think the sports industry is big in the U.S.
Okay.
I
I don't
could
want
be
to
wrong
keep
about
disagreeing
that.
with you,
Yeah,
so I'll
that's-
just leave that alone.
That's fine. All right, let's move on. I guess maybe I should have mentioned this when I was talking about clothing, but this was really interesting, Jared. So obviously in the U.S., when boys are born, what is the kind of go-to color, Jared?
Blue.
What's the go-to color if a girl's born?
Pink.
Now in Belgium, this is actually flipped. So in Belgium, the boys are put in pink, and girls are put in blue. So pink is considered masculine and strong, and blue in Belgium is considered feminine and dainty.
They call it salmon, though. It's salmon. It's not pink.
Okay. Well, that's
just
right, because salmon's manly. That's right.
We don't call it pink. Do they in Belgium? Are they also doing gender reveal parties where they blow up small communities?
I doubt it. That's
Or
probably
large
a very,
penis, for that
very
matter.
that's probably a very American
Are there
thing.
also multiple fatalities at their gender reveal parties?
Probably only in the States, I would imagine. Probably only in the U.S. Why do people do that? I just
It's still
don't
happening
understand.
all the time, too.
I know.
Like, it's not an uncommon occurrence.
I saw one that happened yesterday
Forest
with this
fire
couple.
occurs because...
Right? Well, I saw this one that happened a couple days ago. This couple had this giant balloon, and their, I think it was their younger daughter was holding it and accidentally let go. And the thing blew off into space somewhere.
How big was this balloon?
It was giant.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. But anyways, so yeah, gender reveal parties are something else. That's for sure. I do find it so interesting though that we gravitate, regardless which color it is, pink or blue for which gender. It's kind of funny how we do gravitate towards those, like this gender has this color, that gender has that color. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like who's deciding this? It's so generic. The fact,
Right?
the idea of even assigning, like assigning that. Honestly, the idea of gender reveals, I think in general, are ridiculous. The idea that people are celebrating over one, or I mean, even worse, I guess, would be the people that get like, it's sad. Oh, I wanted a girl or I wanted a boy. This is so disappointing. That I find ridiculous. But
I would just want a healthy baby.
yeah, that would be nice. That would certainly be nice. But yeah, it is ridiculous also just because of how generic it is. I think that would be fun is if you just like use two totally random colors like orange and green or
That'd be perfect.
If people are like, what is green? I don't know what green means.
If you did yellow and orange, would they attribute the orange to guys and yellow to girls?
I have
Yellow
no
and
idea.
orange.
I have no
What
idea.
if you did orange and red? Would that?
Orange and red. Those are too similar. See, I feel like you're going too similar.
Okay.
Those are in the same family. You'd have to go like, that's why I said green and orange, because those in my head are...
and silver.
Yes.
Brown
Yes.
and silver.
Silver would be also just mean because I just imagine a bunch of glitter.
Well, with a lot
And
of
it's
these
like, oh, the
gender
baby's
reveal
going to be an
parties-
asshole apparently because now we're all covered in glitter.
Well, with a lot of those gender reveal parties, Jared, it looks like there is a lot of glitter involved.
Usually it's like that smoke or whatever. Here, I'm going to shoot this 50 cal or this RPG at one of these at this balloon,
Right.
and it's either going to explode. There's a stick of C4 in it, but then also I put this powder, whether it's either green or mauve, and
Right.
that'll be our gender reveal, the grand explosion of mauve or green. I'm
Let
very
me
excited.
get my grandpappy's cannon from the Civil War, and we gonna shoot our gender reveal with that. Come on,
Yeah.
Cletus. Yeah.
Why did I also see a lot of Confederate flags and potentially some Klan hoods when that was happening too?
Right.
Oh, because you said Civil War. That's why.
Yep.
The
So
South
here's-
will rise again with Cletus Jr.
That's right. Oh, man. So here's an interesting gender role, Jared, that I would be totally cool with. This is an interesting one. On Valentine's Day in Japan, men do not buy women flowers or chocolates. Women are the ones who buy things for men. Normally, they get chocolates.
No, I don't want chocolates. I'm not gonna eat them. I don't want them.
What's your ideal Valentine's Day gift, Jared?
I'll tell you my ideal Valentine's Day gift. My ideal Valentine's Day gift is that we pretend Valentine's Day doesn't exist.
That's a good one. I'll take that.
That would be
I'll take that.
my ideal Valentine's Day gift. And I don't even have anything against like going out or some sort of celebration around that time, but I get really annoyed at like these. I hate these generic Valentine's gifts. You know, like the little bears holding chocolates, the little mixed assortment of chocolates, the 12 roses or whatever. I don't know. It's just I don't like these generic Valentine's gifts. That's all I'm saying.
Be
That would
careful.
my gift.
Be careful giving out those even number roses.
My
Ooh,
gift
watch out.
My gift would be is not letting the corporate companies win. Corporate companies, the corporations win on
That's
the
fair.
holidays. That's
Okay.
the gift.
That's
My
fair.
gift.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
but
yeah.
I do find it interesting as well, you know, how gift giving in different cultures is perceived, like who gives what and all that stuff. You know, it's really fascinating. I don't know why this is in Japan. I'm assuming though, it's what's funny is with a lot of these more
Probably
kind of
because of
quote-unquote
sexism.
Western.
It's probably because it's like, what, am I supposed to buy a woman chocolate? Are you crazy? Probably because of gender roles. It's probably some sort of some deeper sexism than even. Oh, I have a question I want to ask you later. I'm going to write it down and remember it. But there's probably some sort of sexist overtone there somewhere.
Could be. What's interesting though about places like Japan or China or Vietnam, places in the East that adopt some of these Western cultural things, like Valentine's Day, they always put an interesting spin on it. Like one example of this as well, this isn't really related to gender roles, but I still think it's kind of interesting, is the fact that I think for Christmas, it was either Christmas or Thanksgiving, I don't remember now, but I'm pretty sure it was Christmas. In Japan, they all go out to eat at KFC, and you have to book like months in advance, I guess, to get a table. Which I find so funny. It's like, once again, you take a Western tradition or cultural thing and you just like kind of do your own thing with it, which is always funny to see.
It's kind of fully just a corporate thing.
Yeah.
Because Christmas is not, I don't think, a historically popular holiday in Japan.
Right.
So you're going through this. You know how much I love just random lists from the internet. It's my favorite thing. I love them. But we're talking about all these cultures that we honestly don't really know anything about. I want to ask you a question about something that you should theoretically know something about because it has something to do with you, I guess, and the United States. What's your opinion on the idea of chivalry? Chivalry is not dead.
It's dead.
Opening doors, standing up when a woman approaches the table,
dead.
Paying for things.
Dead. It's dead. I think chivalry is very dead, and I'll explain why, Jared.
Okay.
I think that chivalry.
I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. I
think
hear the red pill. I hear the Kevin Samuels and whoever else you listen to coming out.
Let me go put my suit and my nice shades on. Let me tell you,
he's now become a Black Twitter phenomenon. He gets roasted like no other these days. Because you don't understand. Anyway, keep going. Why
wouldn't I understand?
You don't you don't understand Black Twitter. It's too much.
Fair enough.
It's too much.
I don't understand Twitter in general. And then Anyways, but so the reason why I think chivalry is dead is because the way things are in the current kind of dating culture is that if you were to do things that are chivalrous, I think a lot of people look at you as a pushover, and I think it's a shame because, I think a lot of things, the thing with like opening doors, for example, I don't necessarily think that's really a gender thing. Like if you were walking in front of me, I'd open the door and, that to me, that's not a gender thing.
Yes. Yeah, sure. No, I just open, if I'm opening the door, it's just for whoever's behind me, not really like a gender related thing for sure.
And now with paying for stuff, that's another one that I think is an interesting one because
Chad, as someone that's tapped in, before you get into this, because I can already tell how toxic this is about to be, as someone that is newly single, freshly vaxxed, hot vax summer, should I be paying for let's say drinks or dinner or whatever on a first date?
It's up to you. So, for example, I went on a date a couple weeks ago. Actually,
what?
Yeah, I went on a date a couple weeks ago.
I thought we were friends, bro. This is the first I'm hearing of this on a freaking podcast.
Bro, there's not much to tell. We went on a date. I mean, she was nice, but we just didn't click.
I didn't pay. Oh, okay.
No, I did pay. And that's probably why we didn't click, because she thought I was
some weak. Is that what she said in her head?
Probably. Well, here was the thing.
When you went to A&W and you got her a root beer float or whatever you got
we got Los Tres. We got Mexican. It was great.
Did you sit outside or something?
We did. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I'm not risking going inside
This is the first I'm hearing this. I'm just asking questions. I don't know.
So we set out on the patio, and it was really nice day out, and but I mean, I paid for the meal. It was about $50 altogether, and because it was a couple margs in both of our meals, I paid for it because I invited her. So I figured, you know what? It's only fair. I invited her. Now, if we would have been walking by and if she would have been like, oh, let's get Mexican food, then I think that's a slightly different conversation, right? But I said, hey, it was me who, was like, hey, let's go get Mexican. It was my idea. I invited her. So I think in that regard, yeah, I paid. And if some red pillars out there want to call me a simp, go ahead. Call me a damn simp. I don't really care.
No, you're not a simp. You're a cuck. Get it right.
But no, see, a cuck would be if she was on a date with another guy and I paid for their meal.
Listen, you guys seem to really be hitting it off. Let me buy you around, then I'm going to get out of here.
Exactly. Yeah. Like if we would have had a male waiter and he would have been hitting on her and be like, actually, why don't you just sit down and you eat
what do you want?
dinner?
I'll go get it.
Right. Here, let me take your apron.
Yeah.
But no, I think the thing with chivalry and everything, Jared, is that we have this dichotomy right now where I think the general narrative with the mainstream media is that
the mainstream media is cake.
Well, you asked.
I'm sorry. That's true. That's true. I opened the door.
The narrative with mainstream media is, I think, that people get being equal and being the same confused. I'm a believer that I do not think men and women are the same. Do they deserve equal rights and equal pay? 100%. Absolutely.
What do you mean by the same? They're not the same.
They're not the same. I think men and women, they have different... they're just biologically, we're not the same. Our bodies are different. At least if we're going with the more, hold up, let me go.
Why are men and women the same, Chad? Please.
All right, so
I'm intrigued.
So why men and women are not the same? If we're talking in your, just your average man and your average woman.
Average.
Yep, your average man is going to be taller.
You've already lost me a little bit. I don't know what the hell that means.
What do you mean?
Oh, average man. You mean literal? Oh, you just mean based off
the literal.
I see.
Statistically speaking, the average man is bigger.
You're just talking. I got you. Okay.
Yeah, is generally taller, weighs more than the average woman. I mean, men can grow beards, women cannot grow beards. I would say that makes us a bit different, wouldn't you?
Sure. Yeah.
I also think too, at the end of the day, like when you ask men and women what they look for in life and in relationships, I think there's similar answers, but they also are a little bit different, So yeah, Jared clearly doesn't agree.
That's where you lost me at the end, because once again, you've lumped all this into sort of like the average man or woman, and that's I don't know, that's where you lose me on this. Like, you're right, of course, like. The average man is 6 inches taller than the average woman. Sure. But then at the end is where you lose me, because then you start going off of these sort of like things about like, the average man produces more muscle than the average woman. And then it goes to like, and then the average woman is interested in this and the average man is interested in this. I feel like that's where you lose me a little bit. I don't know what that is. That average man or woman, when you're talking about things that aren't these sort of like physical features.
Well, I mean, if you even look at jobs, look at who tends to go for which types of... I can tell you because I'm in a very female-dominated field. As a language teacher, majority of my colleagues have been women.
Do you think they're fulfilling some sort of gender role?
I don't know if it's that's a good question. I don't know if they're fulfilling a gender role. But I mean, the argument that most people in the manosphere make, the argument is that
that's science.
Generally, I did not say that was science. The argument usually is, in general, men are more interested in things and stuff, and women are more interested in people. So guys are more interested in cars, for example, and these are just generalities here, but like that's what the manosphere says a lot of the times, right? So dudes generally are more into stuff, and women are more into people. Whether or not that's true, I think is a whole different discussion. But I do think it does add. It adds at least to the discussion of not being 100% the same, right?
Yeah,
that's all I'm trying to get at here.
Yeah. I mean. I think I just get a little confused, because I don't think that everyone's different, and so I don't really think these differences that you speak of necessarily. I think they come down to a gender to gender, because that's how it's been presented to you.
Okay.
How many men have you tried to date? How many I feel like where are you getting this? I don't know. I just feel like. Well, so I'm just saying, like, to say that it's just like gender is where the line is hard for. But I understand that there are. I don't know
if I'm saying that gender is where the line is, but.
Okay. Okay. Sure.
I just think that guys and gals are different.
Sure. No, I understand that. I mean, I don't want to say that there aren't differences, but I don't know. Can I?
What are your thoughts though on chivalry?
Yeah, I think it's probably dead too. There's certainly, I mean, at least let me put it this way. In my experience, I've had experiences where I've been expected to pay. It sort of turns me off a little bit, where it's like an over expectation. But I've also been in situations where that sort of jump to pay sort of is not weirdly presumptuous. I don't know. I've also been places where it's like, that's it. It kind of just depends on the person. And then when it comes to like opening doors and stuff, I kind of open the door for whoever's just behind me. It really has nothing to do with whether it's a male or female or man or woman or whatever. I mean, honestly though, especially with the paying part, it's really like a toss of the coin. It really more just depends on the person. I don't think it has anything to do with gender. And then also, I'll say it's also dead because I'm certainly not like standing up, like as like I have to go to the if the woman's like I have to go to the bathroom, I'm not gonna be like, all right, and stand up as she like leaves the table and stand up as she comes back to the table. Like that sort of stuff is not happening. But
Wait,
there are
so
certainly.
Jared, you're telling me you're not willing to throw your leather jacket over the mud puddle to let her walk over
mean, listen, that's what I was about to say. It's not all dead. I'll certainly do that. I'm not an animal. There's also not weird ones, but there's also ones like you're supposed to walk roadside. Like if you're walking down a street, like a sidewalk, you're supposed to walk. The man's supposed to walk on the roadside. It's like what if a car swerves off the road? Me being roadside somehow, it's like you only hit me and not the person that's an inch away from me.
Can I say this though, Jared, too, about chivalry? I think it's really important to mention that we are talking about chivalry through a very American lens. And I do think in the East and in cultures where more traditional gender roles are still a bit more norm, you do see more chivalry.
I agree with you. And I don't even think that has to be, I think we can even look at that in the U.S. because at least I think you see it more, and at least I've seen
maybe
it more.
Down south, right?
Exactly. In areas of the United States in general, I think where religion, it plays a stronger aspect, you'll certainly see more of those gender norms baked into their culture of these religious cultures. There's a lot more gender stereotypes and expected gender roles to be fulfilled in I'll say this. In all the major religions, like the popular ones, there are certainly very specific gender roles to be fulfilled.
Right.
I would say certainly in other cultures outside of the United States as well, but I think you can certainly see it and see gender roles played out a lot more and sort of expected too. That's why I don't know. That's why I think that sometimes you lose me a little bit when you say like these are the average blah 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 blah, because I also feel like it's so dependent on where you are.
Sure.
And even just the United States, I don't know. I don't want to make it so generic to just like, oh, people in the United States are just like this or whatever.
Well, sure.
I have this is here's what I have for you. Here's another one. I have a couple things. So you brought up there's a thing I want to get to in a bit. But you mentioned what people wear, so I have some other sort of major gender norm areas. But the thing I want to get to later is just some headlines. We don't have to read the articles. I just want to go through some interesting headlines that I found.
Cool.
When I just typed in gender norms. But another one is emotions. How emotions are expressed.
And I think that one might be kind of a cross-cultural. Now, I don't want to fully put myself out there because there are certainly cultures that have slightly different views and perceptions on how gender and how or people of a specific gender should or should not.
It's got to be one of the most toxic as well. Like I think this whole idea of
men are seen as being strong and resilient, and crying for some odd reason we perceive crying as a sign of weakness.
That's got men not crying has to have caused at least 3 or 4 wars in history.
Look what happens when men do cry publicly. You become a meme like Michael Jordan, and your face is plastered all over the internet.
Yeah, but no one.
Poor guy.
But there's no disrespect for Michael Jordan. He's like, it's not like people say like, oh, you think you're a legend? We saw you cry. You know, he's still a legend.
You don't. Yeah, but you don't think that meme shows disrespect? Really?
No, I don't think so. It's just a meme, bro. Because people just no. I don't. I think you take memes too seriously. No,
maybe
I don't think it's that deep. I don't think it's that deep because when people use it, people are using it just to say like, "Oh, you made me cry somehow," or "You roasted me so hard, I'm crying." But it's just like this is just to represent my emotions. This is not to say Michael Jordan's some sort of wimp for crying. It's saying when the meme is used, it's saying this is my emotions. It's not. Right. It's not really any indictment on Michael Jordan. I don't believe.
Okay, fair enough.
I think people use it to represent how they feel.
Okay.
But I will say, obviously, this whole idea of men not being able to properly express emotions, I think, is a huge, huge problem in society.
Sure. Yeah, I agree.
Also another one I think, along with the emotions, is therapy is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's certainly. Therapy stigmas go across cultures and genders and everything, but I certainly think there is more of a stigma from males in general as far as therapy goes, for sure. Another one I thought of, because this is where my nerd, and I agree with you on jobs, by the way. There's certainly a like you can see like through the quote, the stats or whatever. Where people tend to gravitate for jobs. I agree with you on that. But there's another one that I thought of, and this is certainly advertising is a huge one. Mm-hmm. And I thought of it because I thought of car advertisements and tire advertisements back in the day were some of the most sexist things ever. It's like, it'll be like, blah, blah, blah car. So easy to operate. Even your wife can drive it. Or it's like blah, blah, blah tires. So with so much grip and control that even your wife can stay on the road and stuff like this. Even a woman can control a car with these tires.
I agree with you that those old school commercials.
I know where you're going, by the way. And I'm not saying this to say that it's just all some sort of sexism against women, because I agree with you. And don't worry, I'm not bullying men. I know you get very defensive. Because today, I certainly agree, commercials, a lot of commercials really play on the fact that like the dad or the husband is a freaking idiot. Yep. That doesn't know how to take care of kids, doesn't know how to clean a plate, doesn't know how to leave a house without almost burning it down.
Well, there was.
I agree with you.
I forget what the ad was. I forget what the ad was now, but the ad was something along the lines of like, it was a car ad. It was a car or a truck ad, and it was like best way to get away from your husband or something. And it's like, dear Lord, like. I feel bad for these people.
In general, it's the gender stereotypes cannot be avoided, because a lot of these big companies have, I think, it's weird because I think there's legitimate there's some legitimate case that someone smarter than me can make, and that I, to a certain extent, agree to, that like some of these gender norms are ridiculous, and the way that we market to people is ridiculous. But as someone that just knows how companies work, is that these companies are working off legitimate data and legitimate, not science, but almost science to a certain extent. It's not science, but there's data involved.
It's
in
marketing research.
Exactly.
It's research.
There's a lot of there's millions of dollars put into the research of how you capture someone's attention.
Right.
And so while gender roles are something that almost feel like they should be near antiquated, you still see them played out in marketing all the time.
Well, I can tell you why the marketing has flipped the script, Jared. It's a pretty easy answer.
Why is that? It's easy.
Who is the highest percentage of consumers in the United States?
Why don't you tell me who it is?
It's women.
Okay. Oh, so yeah, that's who they're selling to. So are you saying? So I guess the assumption would be, or not the assumption, but back in the '60s, or whatever, when most of these, when in like the heyday of these Mad Men sexist car ads for, where it's like so easy, even your wife can do it kind of ads. It was like, well, men are making these decisions, so we have to make them comfortable with what they're going to buy for their wife, is what
Culturally,
they're saying.
that was probably how it was back then, unfortunately.
Right. That's, I mean, that makes sense. It's weird. I feel like I honestly, Chad, feel like I'm very conflicted because as far as like the data goes and how these decisions are made in a company, I guess I get it. But I also, on whether it's some sort of so easy your wife can do it, or like your husband is so dumb he doesn't know how your dishwasher works, I hate both of them,
Yeah.
Like,
and
I hate
both
just
toxic.
these generic assumptions. And I hate that this is still what companies believe is like the proper way to sell these products. And maybe it's true, maybe it's not, I don't know, but I hate it. I really do hate it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I agree. It's toxic. A lot of it, though, I think is very heavily culturally ingrained, right? But yeah, it's really interesting. But
that's true.
Here's an interesting example, though, Jared, of just the way we view slightly different gender roles and how they play out in different workforces. So I don't know if you know this, Jared, but actually in Russia,
I call men toots at the office. Is that okay? Only
nice.
men.
All the ladies, I hope you call them champ and sport as well. So in Russia, though, Jared, what's interesting is apparently the majority of the workforce in the past, I'm not sure about now, but the majority of the workforce of doctors in Russia were women. So doctors were actually considered to be a more feminine
Interesting.
work position, whereas in the U.S., it's funny. There's a riddle that you can ask people, and it shows them their gender bias very quickly. Here's the riddle, Jared. I already gave it away because I've talked about this topic, but here's the riddle. So a son and a father are driving in a car, and they get in a car accident. The father dies in the car accident. The son is taken via ambulance to the hospital. When the son gets there, the doctor sees the son laying on the operation floor and says, "Oh my God, my son! Who is the doctor?"
I don't know. I don't know.
The mom.
Oh, I got you. I see that. That's what the doctor says.
Right.
But
the whole point of that is to show that most people, their first instinct is, okay, well, the dad died, so the mom would be the doctor,
Sure.
right?
I have another one for you.
Okay. Go for it.
I listen to a podcast daily. One of my favorite podcasts, TBTL. I'll shout them out. And one of the hosts, Andrew, he has a cat. The cat is named Professor Bananas. He says everyone assumes the cat's a male cat, and it's a female cat. And he was like, it really exposed the sexism that just everyone assumed that the professor is a male. It's like, well, why would you make that assumption? I just said it, the profession. What are you talking? Like,
Right.
Why are you assuming that? So this is just another example.
Yeah. But yeah, so I find it really interesting, but this also goes back, at least in the case of more Russian doctors, it goes back to this age-old argument, debate, discussion, whatever the hell you want to call it, about this kind of, you have the feminine, which is viewed by a lot of cultures as being like soft, nurturing, motherly, all of these things, right? And then you have the masculine that cross-culturally in many different cultures is viewed as the strong, powerful, assertive, dominant, whatever, right? And I do think it's interesting how that plays out. But what's also really fascinating, Jared, is there's a tribe in Vietnam where actually it's a very matriarchal society, and only women are the ones who are allowed to own houses. They have a lot more rights than men. So I think it's really interesting how in different cultures, these roles can play out very, very differently.
Sure, but I certainly think that those cultures are. I've seen that they exist. I looked it up too, but they're certainly a lot smaller and like they're more smaller as groups. Like overall, I think certainly society, I could say in general, definitely leans more patriarchal historically.
Sure.
Like, certainly. Go ahead, please.
Let me ask you a question, Jared.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on women serving in the military?
No.
Should that?
Kidding.
Okay. Why?
No, I'm just kidding. No.
I mean, being required
Well, no one's required to serve in the military in the United States.
in the U.S. But countries where they do have so let's just pretend the U.S. reinstates military duty. When you're 18, you need to do 8 months of military duty. Guys and girls, what do you think?
Sure, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
The way I looked at it was a little different. I looked at it but yeah, I'm certainly okay with that. That's what they do, and they do that in some countries.
Israel.
I mean, that's one of them. Yeah. Yeah, I have no problem with that. I was looking at it from the aspect where it's not required, and in that sense, I'm also fine with it, primarily because they have the requirements are the requirements, and so if you can fulfill those requirements, then kind of just like how it's like, why would you have a ban on gay people or trans people in the military? I find that ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's like you're lucky that these people are willing to do this BS job. It's a hard job that not many people want to do, and it's like, why would you restrict people that are willing and capable of doing this? It's ridiculous to me.
Yeah,
100%. So it goes for women are included in that. I would say, if they can do it, then sure, of course, why not? And I would say that that's my. Listen, I'm not a cruel guy. If there can be exemptions. I'm not saying if you're pregnant you should do it. I'm not saying if I'm a reasonable guy. All right.
Right.
When I'm a dictator, I'll be a reasonable dictator. That's what I'm saying.
That's fair. Yeah, I think the women in the military is an interesting one because it also goes to show you...
Who has a problem with that?
Well,
men?
Well, maybe, probably. I don't know.
What about you? You asked me, what about you?
I'm also fine with it. If you want to join the military, I think if you can pass all the tests and do everything,
I don't understand why you want to limit your pool of people.
Well, I think this is why many more traditional cultures are against women in the military, is that if you have women in the military, what can happen if a war breaks out, for example, who is going to, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I'm saying I'm trying to think of how they approach this or view this, right? So if you look at more traditional countries, I think they just view women having a different role in society and fighting and killing and waging war. Generally speaking, they don't view women as the ones who are suitable for those roles.
There are cultures that believe that, sure. But why? Why are you better at murdering someone in cold blood than I am? How dare you?
Right.
It's yeah.
I think it's
of
also,
course that
though,
exists. I agree. I know that exists.
Here's another cultural trope, Jared, that I think the West and the East, it's very different. In the West, because feminism is pretty much normal and mainstream, I would argue that a lot of people don't view women as these fragile creatures that need to be protected. But I can tell you, after talking to guys from Russia, talking to people from even Czech Republic as well, I mean, they view women as women
Czech Republic the East and Russia, that's the East?
Well, it depends who you ask. If you ask a Czech person, they're going to say it's Central Europe. If you ask,
you said the difference between the West and the East, and I was I don't know. Czech Republic was the East.
Well, no. I was using that just as an example of people I've met who believe that women should be protected. Therefore, why would you put women in a position to be at war when they're in grave danger, right? And I'm not saying whether or not this is right or wrong. I'm just saying that's kind of the thought process that a lot of, I think, these cultures have.
I think that's the problem. This idea that you need to protect these people. I think that's a weird sort of, I don't know. I find that to be kind of a weird instinct.
Why?
We know better than these people. We need to protect them. It's for their own good. We're doing this for them. We know that they shouldn't be doing this. We should be protecting these people.
Let me give it to you.
Who are you to decide what's too dangerous for me?
Well, let me put it to you this way, Jared. Say you have a family, okay? Someone breaks into your house. Are you going to want your daughter or your wife to go attack the robber, or are you going to probably go handle it?
Or are you going to want your son to go attack the robber?
I mean, if it's you or your son, you're probably going to... I would choose myself.
Why would you say... that's what I'm saying. Why are you just saying your wife or your daughter? That's what I'm asking. What about your son? Do you want him to go attack him? Why would you include just those two?
A good question. I don't know. Well, I guess the difference would be,
And then I think the wife
wouldn't
would
want
also
any
say,
of
I
my
don't-
children.
But I think the wife would also say, yeah, I would also don't want people breaking in to attack my kids. I have an instinct that puts me into a place where I want to protect my children. I certainly don't think that is just going to be, I can't imagine some situation. I don't know. I think that's a foolish example you gave. I'm going to be honest with you.
Okay, that's fine. But I do
Sure,
really
but
think
of course,
that,
any person is going to want to protect the people that they love, period.
yes, but generally speaking, culturally, who tend to be the protectors?
Sure. Yeah, okay. But I haven't been any sort of, I guess I haven't been in any sort of break-in situation where I have to consider these things. I think that's such a small, I don't know.
Well, once again, I'm kind of relating this back to the
Also,
going
I think
to
that's
war and
so like
soldier
fight or
thing.
flighty. I think that's like you don't really know how anyone's going to react in that example. Fight or flight is a real thing. It's very possible that a man could be in that situation and gets freaked out and runs away.
Well, of course, I'm
And
not
then a
trying to
woman's
say.
like, well, I got to protect my kids. So like, I think this idea of like, well, it's the man that protects that's like a movie shit. That's like, hey,
Look, it's
go
all-
stand back. I'll
you're-
take
you're-
care of anything.
You're
Let
right.
me-
You're right. But because it's movie shit, I think is an argument that it's very culturally ingrained.
Sure.
That is the point I'm trying to make here.
I think it's culturally ingrained, but I think it's foolish because in a real life situation where something like that happens, no one has any idea how they will react in that situation.
True.
And I also kind of find it weird that you said like, would you want your daughter or wife? Because it's like, yeah, I wouldn't want any of my kids to be the one stepping
Right.
up, not just my daughter.
Well, then let me put it, do you want your wife or your sister?
My wife or what are you talking about? I'm so confused on this. What this
Well,
scenario
just,
is.
I'm saying if
Listen,
people
Chad,
were,
I hope if I'm in any sort of situation that I'd be in a situation where I'd step up and try to protect people. Sure. But so if I'm in a situation where I'm trying to understand this situation, am I telling the woman, stay here, I'll go save us? And she's just like, okay. Are we assuming that that's what her personality is?
I have
These
no
are just
idea.
such broad generalizations.
Right.
In a situation that's honestly probably never going to happen to most people. Where they're in some sort of like breaking into your house and you have to like,
Which is
go to our
which
panic
is
room
fine.
and I'll save us.
which is fine, but I think culturally speaking, even in the U.S. still, men are still called upon to be a protector for most cases, I would argue.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. But
You know?
yeah. Okay. I guess. But I think that's a little different than if someone's breaking into your house and you're protecting, and like who's going to protect the family. Okay. All right. Can I read you some headlines that I thought were
for sure.
One of them is you know how much I love internet list. Maybe we'll get to this later. Maybe not. Doesn't matter. 25. No, we'll skip that one because who cares? Women won't achieve gender equality for their kids until they stop doing all the housework. This is an NBC News opinion piece.
Mm-hmm.
Has the pandemic shifted traditional gender roles in childcare? This is from Medical News Today. China proposes teaching masculinity to boys as state is alarmed by changing gender roles. This is NBC News.
I've heard about that one. Can you go back? I want to break these down a little bit. You're kind of going through these. I like these. Can you go back to the first one?
Women won't achieve. If there's anyone you're interested in, I have the links. I can read them.
Okay.
Women won't achieve gender equality for their kids until they stop doing all the housework. This is an opinion piece, by the way.
Okay, so
NBC News.
I want to just ask some questions here with this one. So, first of all, how do they define gender equality? That's my first question. They may or may not say in the article. I don't know. My second question, though, is also yes. What I have read is yes. Women do definitely way more than their fair share at home. And I do want to acknowledge that and give them credit for that. However, I have also read that if you look at in the past, it was a lot worse. Men would contribute even less at home to what they're doing nowadays, I guess. And this is another progress forward is apparently back in the day, Jared, men a lot of times would get kind of belittled or ostracized if they, for example, would forego going to work to spend time with their children because that was seen as kind of, seen as wimpy or whatever. Whereas nowadays it's become a lot more accepted to, take time as a man and spend that time with your kids, even if you have a job. So I think that is a step in the right direction. So that's good.
The word quote unquote wimpy just got me thinking. This is another great question for Kevin Chad Samuels. What's your opinion of toxic masculinity? Because I noticed you talking about like this idea of something being considered wimpy if a man were to do it. Right. And I think a lot would consider that toxic masculinity.
Well, I think it's a little, I don't know. The fact that why do we have to label it toxic masculinity? Why can't we just say it's toxic? I mean,
because it's specifically relating to how it's because it's specifically about masculine, like this sort of idea of what it means to be masculine is specifically what it is.
But do we call any feminine traits that aren't healthy toxic femininity?
What are some of those traits?
Let's see here. Well, let me try to think. So
because I can name toxic masculinity traits, I feel like.
Okay, go for it. Rip. Go for it.
I'd say violence is more of a male thing. The idea of not being able to express emotions, the idea that crying is sort of, you know what I mean. Also, I would say, what's another one? I would say, as far as work, you can see it a lot in workspaces, where there are expectations for, like, women's clothes, for example, get judged a lot more than men's clothes.
So wouldn't that be toxic femininity if women's clothes are being judged more than men?
No, because I would say these are sort of what are you talking about?
But who's judging the clothes? I don't care about what clothes people wear.
I'm not talking about you, Chad. That's like saying, oh, what are you talking about? America's racist. Well, I know black people. They're great. I'm not racist.
Oh God, yeah, I hate people like that.
But I'm saying you're like, this is not about you. Why are you taking it personally?
Because we're talking about toxic masculinity, and I'm a man. Am I not?
Right. But just because you don't do something doesn't mean that it's not a problem.
So you asked me some toxic feminine traits or toxic femininity. Well, I guess the way a lot of
femininity. Here comes Kevin Samuels.
I've seen it happen plenty when we were in school. I mean, so toxic masculinity would be the dudes beating the shit out of each other on the playground because there was a discrepancy, right? Toxic femininity would be the way girls would go behind each other's backs and spread rumors and gossip, for example. That would be maybe an example of toxic femininity.
See, it's interesting, though, because... All right. Okay.
Well, I'm just trying to do tit for tat here, Jared,
But I feel like everyone spreads rumors. I certainly don't consider that a female trait, rumor spreading.
Well,
First of all, as someone that enjoys sports... There are plenty of rumors spread all the time. Half the shit I read about Formula 1 is rumor and not real.
Okay. On that same vein, though, Jared, I've seen plenty. I mean, women can be violent, too. So why is violence considered toxic masculinity?
I think if you look at the statistics, it's pretty clear that men tend to be more masculine. If you could think of the past, however many mass shootings that have happened.
I'm talking more violence in terms of like hitting. Not shooting or stabbing. I'm talking like hand violence.
I mean, if I were, I'd have to imagine. I would be shocked if you were to look up police record of domestic violence, male versus female. You're going to see a lot more male domestic violence.
Here's the problem with that. Here's the problem with that, Jared. First of all, if you are a man, and this also goes back to gender roles, if you call the police and file a domestic dispute with your spouse or your girlfriend, who do you think they're going to take to jail?
And you know what that's you know what that's because toxic masculinity. That's because there's this idea that men can't be in a situation. Wait, what are you talking about? First of all, I've never heard that before in my life. But I feel like a lot. I think the problem if there's more. If you're saying that there's not enough. If I would say that there's certainly a thing where the idea of men being in a domestic violence situation is like, well, that can't happen. And there are certainly female domestic violence situations, but I think the reason why you don't hear about it as much is because of toxic masculinity. The idea of a man getting beat up by a woman, I think, is shameful, and it's something that men will get made fun of. And I think that's because this idea that men should not be able to get beat up by women, and I think that that's toxic masculinity. Sure. This like, hey, look at this wimp. He got beat up by a woman. Sounds like toxic masculinity to me. Not toxic femininity, which is I've never heard of, by the way. That's the first I've heard of that term.
What, toxic femininity?
Yeah,
well, but see, here's the issue, though, Jared. We use this term toxic masculinity, and we throw it around like a football, and we say, this is toxic masculinity, this is toxic masculinity. I'm saying if you have one, why can you not have the other? You know, we blame so many things on toxic masculinity, yet you never hear anything. What about here? Here's a toxic femininity trait for you. What about the women who get pregnant by somebody else and don't tell the person who they think they're the biological father? I'd say I mean, technically speaking,
is that like a common problem? Is that a problem bigger than?
I think statistically speaking, it's about 10% in the U.S.
Is that a bigger problem?
That's a decent number.
That's a ridiculous statistic. Really, 10%? What? Now, let me ask you this: is that a what? Is that a is that a bigger problem? I don't know. This is so ridiculous. All right, Chad.
Let me ask you this: why? So here, you want to talk about another thing that I've heard online being quote unquote toxic,
just so you know,
is when men ask for a DNA test when the women have a child. How is that toxic? See, that's my issue is that we throw around toxic.
Is that toxic? I didn't know that was an example of toxic masculinity. I didn't realize that.
I heard somebody say it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just find this idea of toxic masculinity. I mean, why do we have to label it as toxic masculinity? Is it because it's only men doing it? I don't know. But anyways, let's read some more headlines.
Has the pandemic shifted traditional gender roles in childcare? That's kind of more...
probably not. My guess is probably
here's
not.
The other one. That's hilarious. Here's another one that you heard that you read about that I haven't heard anything about. Honestly, I didn't even read the article. I just was pulling some headlines that I found that stuck out to me. China proposes teaching masculinity to boys as state is alarmed by changing gender roles. You love this.
I heard about this as well.
You were telling me you wanted to go back to China. Is this why?
I heard about this.
You're like, finally, a country that gets it. Jesus
what
Christ.
I heard about actually, which was really interesting.
Feminization of the male is ruining society.
What I heard about, which was pretty interesting, was that apparently one of the Department of Ministry of Ed people over there said they're for PE said that basically the Chinese boys are getting soft. Like the top gym teacher of China was basically did
they explain what that means? What that means?
Yeah, it means their sports scores their test scores have gone down and down and down from what they used to be.
Oh, so that's what they call soft. Is that they're just not okay?
Just not as active, not as.
What about the girls? What direction has theirs gone? No data on that.
They're probably. I'm not
weird.
sure.
That's weird.
Once again, I think a lot of that goes down to, especially in China, a lot of that goes down to I think their bigger sports programs, and unfortunately, and see, Jared, maybe I was right initially when I did say the U.S. we have really good support and maybe some of the best support for women athletes, because I know in China it seems like the guy athletes, well, I guess it's the same in the U.S. too, actually. They get a lot more funding than the women athletes do. Funding and support and all that stuff.
So let me just give you some idea of gender stereotypes, see how you agree. All over the place. All over the place. Well, one that you brought up, that men can't be abused. Of course they can. But I still would argue that...
Whoa. I never said men couldn't be abused.
No, I know. You said... That's true. No, sorry. I know.
Jesus,
that's true. You said that that's true. But I think
men aren't going to be taken as seriously if they're abused by a woman.
Yeah, and I think that's because of toxic masculinity, because it's expected that a man should be able to stand up for themselves physically.
Or... could it also be that a narrative in society a lot of times, generally speaking, men are the violent ones, right? So that means, a lot of times I think the way the media frames a lot of things is that women are incapable of doing some of these things, which I don't think is the case. I think anybody is capable of violence, man or woman.
Yeah.
And I think that's a cultural thing too.
You're talking about toxic femininity. I don't think it's women saying that they're not capable of that. I think it's men. Once again, you go back to Czech Republic and Russia, this need to protect women. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I'm just saying. Women are perpetually catty and shallow, and they always want a tall, strong boyfriend who has enough money to support their catty, shallow lifestyles. You love that, don't you?
I mean,
that men can't cook or clean or take care of themselves.
Hold up.
No, you certainly can't cook. That's for sure. We know that.
Can I respond to that other one first? You're blowing through
because
these
I just don't want to go through this again. We're just going to go through it again.
Well, no, I don't think that's completely true. I think for some ladies, sure. I think if you ask a lot of ladies what type of guy are you into, they want a guy who's a decent earner and is a bit taller. And I think that's okay. You're allowed to have preferences.
I'm maybe not a bit taller, but I also want someone that's a decent earner.
I mean, I want someone
shallow
that
and
is.
catty.
No, I personally would want someone that is at least financially literate. You know what I mean? Like they're not crazy with their money. They're not broke. They're not spending it all the time. But yeah, okay, keep going now.
That men can't cook, clean, or take care of themselves. Men are not helpless without their mothers or significant others.
So would the men not being able to cook clean, would that be toxic masculinity as well?
No, these are just gender stereotypes, like stupid gender stereotypes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that's really stupid.
What's your cleaning ability, Chad? Do you never have to clean though? That's the thing. You're never in a situation these days where you have to clean. We know you can't cook.
Well, we're getting there, Jared. Give me some time. Yeah.
Are you?
We're getting there.
You don't just have to say that. If you can't cook, you can't cook. It's okay.
I mean, I'm a terrible cook, but I'm trying to learn.
Well, how are you getting there though?
Do you not think that me trying to cook at camp is not me cooking?
Oh, okay. Sorry. I didn't. Sorry. That's rude of me. I didn't realize that putting the pre-cooked bratwurst over a fire was
it's cooking.
You have to start somewhere. I didn't realize where ground zero was, and now I know. And now I take that back. I'm sorry. You are making steps. That women love shopping, makeup, and salon visits.
I mean, some do, but I think in the U.S. that's not as
of course
common as it used to be.
Yeah, but if you know anything, but I'd say some men do too. Men love shopping. What are you talking about?
Sure.
Men love, I don't know, maybe not, I don't know about makeup, but certainly salon visits. Have you ever seen, there are men out there that like to...
the male equivalent would be the barbershop, right?
The barbershop is a great example. The barbershop is a giant cultural aspect of at least black males. I don't know what it's like at the great clips that you go to, but but at least the black barbershop is like a black male cornerstone of society for sure. Jesus Christ. Chad's really all over the place these days. The men shouldn't cry or express their feelings. We already talked about that one. That women aren't complete unless they experience motherhood. Yeah, that's
BS.
Yeah.
Could that be toxic femininity right there? That idea?
But I think men feel that way too. I don't think that's a...
What, do men feel like women aren't complete if they don't have kids? Really?
Toxic femininity. Yeah, for sure. Especially if you're the man in the relationship with the woman and you want kids.
I think that's more self-projection,
your role,
isn't it?
and there's more the idea of fulfilling this role, especially in the religious community. I think it depends on...
Yeah.
I think, but toxic femininity, I don't know what that means, Chad. I still don't know what that means. I've just never heard this term before. So
I mean, in theory, wouldn't it be the same thing as toxic masculinity? It would be a feminine trait that is toxic? Because isn't toxic masculinity a masculine trait?
But I think it's not only that, but I think it also...
Here, let's see.
Right.
How do we actually define this here? What is
I don't think
toxic
it's a term. I think that's like saying what's reverse racism. That kids can't play with certain toys or play certain sports because
stupid.
Target actually a while ago they removed gender labels from their toys and clothes section. And of course, a bunch of conservatives freaked out. That women are more inclined towards gossip and drama. I think that's ridiculous as well as a gender stereotype. Because as I mentioned. And as this one comedian that I like, Chris Lambert, he mentions that you're not listening. It doesn't even matter what I'm saying.
Chris Lambert.
Oh wow, very impressive. I always get nervous when you're staring at a computer screen. He mentioned that
staring at a computer screen the whole time we've been recording. What are you talking about?
Not me. You know what I'm talking about. You meanie. No, I'm kidding. He mentioned that. it's so ridiculous to say that like men and stuff don't care, like aren't drama or into soap operas and all that shit, because like that's what most sports are. Like most of the enjoyment of sports, part
Especially
of the enjoyment,
wrestling.
Part of the enjoyment, no, even real sports though. Part of the enjoyment is watching the sport happen. The other part of the enjoyment is all the off-court, off-track drama, all the drama on the sidelines where it's like this person says they don't want to play with this person. This person says that they want to leave this team because they don't think they can win a championship. That is like sports exist partially because the drama is necessary too. So this idea that like the gossip is like this woman thing, or it's like, oh no, you see all these like like Real Housewives shows and all that stuff, where it's like, yeah, our this like the quote unquote male Real Housewives, if you're just gonna, it would be sports, It's like you make it seem like there's no drama and just like a whole bunch of lies and gossip made up in drama in sports as well.
All right, Jared, I found it. So, and these are both from, and I wanted to see, and I was able to find it from
I knew
the
we should have
same
done this
source.
episode. This was a terrible idea.
This has
Please
been
keep
fun.
going.
I've enjoyed this. So these both are from Psychology Today, so take that for what you will. Okay. So what is toxic masculinity? Let's see here. So basically, toxic masculinity include man rules that are a man should suffer physical and or emotional pain in silence. A man shouldn't seek warmth, comfort, or tenderness. This is from Psychology Today. A man should only have the emotions of bravery and anger. I would also add hungry and horny in there. But anyways.
Is horny an emotion? I guess I feel horny. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Hungry is definitely.
Emotions are feelings, so I would say horny would be
hungry
a feeling.
An emotion? I mean, you can feel hungry too, right? Anyways.
Yeah, but I don't think it's an emotion.
Shouldn't depend on anyone. Asking for help is also weak. A man should always want to win, whether it's in sports, work, relationships, or sex. I don't know how you can win in sex. Do you give the... Yeah, anyways, so that is toxic masculinity, Jared. So here is toxic femininity. A definition. So women expressing stereotypically feminine traits such as, and this is from Psychology Today, passivity, empathy, sensuality, patience, tenderness, and receptivity.
That's hilarious.
Wait, let me finish. Which result in individuals ignoring their mental or physical needs to sustain those around them.
But see, these are things that's so different to me than what toxic masculinity. It's like this expectation of what a man should be versus like, because a woman is expected to act this way, this is how it results.
But it's
in
the
her
same
life.
thing, just with reverse gender roles. Is what I've been trying to argue this whole episode. It's the same thing. Just with look at it this way.
It's so funny how it's toxic that like these people, like the toxic part is that the women are empathetic to a fault.
Well,
That's
no. The toxic aspect of that would be you are not regarding your own emotions. You're being so empathetic that you are letting that take a toll on your own physical health or mental health. And that is what makes it toxic. Whereas the toxic masculinity, what it seems like becomes toxic about it is that, you are all, it's kind of actually the same thing. Once again, you are not able to get the mental health help you need because you need to be tough. I can't cry because I'm a man, right? So once again, these cause all mental or physical health tolls on ourselves because of culturally or societally imposed gender roles. Does that make more sense?
Sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, but see, I guess that's what irritates me a little bit is right now it seems like you hear toxic masculinity everywhere, right? And sure, there are certain traits and things men do that are definitely toxic.
I would say you hear it more because I feel like this idea of toxic masculinity, I feel like plays a more present threat in our life, especially when we're talking about things like violence in society.
Okay.
It just feels, and I think that plays a role on why you hear it more and why it, to me, is a bigger problem, because I feel like this quote unquote toxic masculinity leads to more violent outcomes than toxic femininity.
Yeah. Well,
you don't hear about like the dude that shot up the massage parlor in Atlanta. You don't hear about women going on murdering sprees because men don't because I don't know, whatever sort of sexual frustration they might have. I think that sort of sexual frustration is a aspect of toxic masculinity and the expectations of what you're supposed to be doing as a man. And when we see these expectations, when these people feel like they're not fulfilling these expectations, a lot more times we see it result in violence with men than we do with women.
Sure. I think that issue, though, is a whole nother can of worms as well, just because I think sex for men and women is also very different. And also,
but I think that's why toxic masculinity is more of a problem in society, and probably why you hear more about it.
Maybe. Okay. Yeah, maybe. Could be.
Because
you're definitely changing my perspective a little bit.
But you're changing my perspective, too. Maybe this idea of toxic femininity does exist. And certainly there are aspects. I'm not saying that women are perfect and they don't do anything wrong. Of course, I can imagine when you I understand these concepts, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But I don't see these concepts resulting in we can see the results of toxic masculinity,
right?
Physically, through violence, a lot more than you can this example of toxic femininity.
So, Jared, I did read those traits of toxic masculinity, which in a nutshell was like, don't cry, you have to always be tough, you can't show pain, you have to suffer in silence.
To provide, and maybe is another one.
Right. Now, here are the ones for toxic femininity. And it's interesting because if you juxtapose these, they are very different. They're almost kind of, in a way, polar opposites. A woman won't let herself eat anything but a salad while on a date. I've definitely been on dates with girls that ate a salad, and it's like, I would have been cool if you
Eddie Murphy stand-up bit.
You better believe it.
I just have a salad,
right?
A water,
right? That's like the restaurant menus that have the kind of snarky like I'm not hungry option where it's like 2 chicken tenders and a small fry or something. Have you ever seen those on menus?
Fair. Yeah. Just to be fair, there are certainly things on menus I'm not going to order. You're not going to find me ordering baby back ribs when I'm on a date. I'm not going to order corn on the cob.
Speak for yourself.
There's no fucking way I'm ordering certain foods where I'm like, if this woman sees me with baby back rib sauce all over my cheeks and forehead somehow, it's over. It's a wrap for me. So there are certainly foods for me as well where I was like, yeah, obviously maybe there is more toxic masculinity or femininity around what you can eat, sure. But I'm cognizant too. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not eating this. I'm going to look like a freaking idiot.
Buddy of mine from grad school used to take girls out to get wings or ribs for dinner on their first date.
I'd be self-conscious too. Forget the girls. But hey, listen, I guess I wouldn't be dating your buddy because it would not work out. It would not work out.
Oh, this is an interesting trait of toxic femininity as well, Jared. When a parent insists on piercing the ears of a moments-old baby girl to ensure she looks ornamented and pretty. So interesting.
Let me ask you this. Is this toxic femininity or masculinity? Now, maybe this is why there shouldn't be these specific terms. Now, maybe you're starting to... Because I think back to... I won't say specifics. I'm thinking back to maybe if you have a son and a daughter, and maybe the techniques for raising a son might be significantly different, than the techniques you use for raising your daughter, whether it be, I'm going to let my son start going on... my son goes on dates... and I'm not as discerning with the date or like how my son's allowed to use the car or how my son's allowed to leave the house versus my daughter is allowed to leave the house or I got to meet the dude before he goes on a date. And this is all, by the way, very gender normative things. We're assuming.
Sure. Yeah.
We're assuming because obviously we'll see a lot of toxic masculinity if your son brings, not obvious. Well, yeah, obviously in certain, houses, you'll see a lot of toxic masculinity if your son brings home a dude and it's like this, I'm going on a date with this guy, then you'll certainly see a lot of toxic masculinity. So I just wonder though, as far as raising kids though, do you call that toxic masculinity or femininity? Because I think you see it on both sides where it's like there's these aspects where it's like I treat my kid this way because they're I don't know. I feel like I've seen a lot of it where it's like sometimes I feel like I had a lot easier ride. I was also younger, so maybe you got to factor that in too. But sometimes I feel like I had a lot easier ride than my sister, and I think some of that might have had to do with the fact that maybe there was, I don't know, whether I'm a dude. Maybe I'm wrong. I never asked my parents. Hopefully they don't listen to this because I don't want to talk about it.
But that boils back down to, it's just cultural gender roles.
Sure. Yeah, that's true. At
the end of the day, that's what it really does boil down to. I think some of it, Jared, is not rooted in toxicity, but just love for our children and realizing that there are different potential dangers for your sons and your daughters. I mean, the likelihood of, well, we're not going to get into that.
No, but you're right. But that's true. That's true. I mean, there is.
And it goes, once again, Jared, goes back to my argument. I guess I'm not going to say
there's no logic behind the different concerns. It's like, yeah, certainly there's more risk of bad things happening to your daughter than son, I guess.
For certain things, definitely.
Sure.
And once again, Jared, this goes back to my argument about men and women, in my opinion, are not the same. I think they're
sure. Yeah, sorry.
I think they're obviously capable of doing, I think women can certainly be anything career-wise a man could if they want to, by all means. But I do think that we are built a little bit differently, and we're just a little bit different, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. I think the fact that in our society nowadays, I feel like I say these statements like I don't think are that controversial, but I'm a little anxious to say some things like this.
Yeah, I am too. Also, I get nervous in general when we just talk in like these gender norms where it's like men do this and women do this, because it just in general I find that concept a little ridiculous. But I understand that this is how we're more talking about, like how societies like this is. We'd be foolish to say that societies don't consider these things. Here's another one that really bothers me, by the way. Mm-hmm. Really grinds my gears. This really stick up my craw. That men can't have fruity drinks. That's a bit of toxic masculinity we need to get rid of.
Yeah.
What's wrong?
Men can't go to the club for free either. A lot of nights. You go see guys' nights.
That's just business. I think a lot of times it's a lot easier to get men into a club than women. But the fruity drinks thing bothers me, because that's more just like, well, what are you drinking this drink? It's like, listen, what are you talking about? We're all addicted to sugar, idiot, and I like sugar. It has nothing to do with the fruitiness. I like sugar.
Right.
I'm addicted to sugar. Is that girly to be addicted to sugar as you eat your power bar? I think that's dumb. It's like this idea of like, certainly if you were to be at some sort of there is the joke about like being in any sort of bar situation and walking away with some sort of drink with a lot of frills and color to it. Mm-hmm. Like, men apparently shouldn't have a drink that has any sort of like serious color to it, whether it be red or blue or green. Those are ladies' drinks. Shouldn't have any sort of like serious large accoutrements off the side of it. Yes, umbrellas, large oranges, or anything like that. No accoutrements, just straight beers, whiskeys, tequilas, vodka. If you're gonna do that, just
some
drink
ice,
straight.
And that's all you get.
Yeah, I've even seen some masculinity around that. It's like, what are you putting ice in your whiskey? You're watering it down. It's like, all right, relax. Let me enjoy my beverages. That women don't know anything about big financial matters. Yeah, I think that's ridiculous. That men have to be breadwinners and be career focused. That's certainly, I think that's certainly a lot of toxic masculinity from. Here we go. Yeah.
How is that toxic? I'm just very confused how. It seems like whenever it's an issue involving men, it seems like your default goes to, Jared, is toxic masculinity. But who are the victims under this as well?
What do you mean, who are the victims?
The men. If you're not the breadwinner.
Yeah, sure.
But
I think these are conversations that must be had within a family. And listen, maybe I'm a little jaded too, because I never grew up in a household with these sort of gender norms. Both of my parents worked, but my dad did most of the cooking. My mom knows how to cook just fine, and she cooked occasionally if necessary, but my dad likes it, so he was primarily the cook. I don't know. Maybe I'm also jaded by my experiences and not maybe fulfilling. I remember I had this, I went to a Catholic school in high school. I had this religion teacher. I went to a Catholic school, so that was the religion he was teaching, and he was flabbergasted when I told him. Not only that my mom, I don't know why it came up, but for some reason it came up that my mom was traveling. And I was like, yeah, she travels all the time. He's like, oh, why does she travel all the time? I was like, well, for work. She, for her job. And he's like, what? He's like, what does she do? What sort of job is this? Like, just the idea that my mom was working, especially to the point where she was leaving the household. Who takes care of the home? What? He was flabbergasted, bro. Maybe it's not toxic masculinity. I think a lot of this stuff also is a religion more than anything.
Sure.
But I think religion in general has a lot of toxic masculinity built into it. I think a lot of that religion is the idea that the men are essentially make all the decisions. Their job is to take care of all the important things, while the woman takes care of the home. Is a very religious sort of idea. So I think
I would say not only religious but traditional as well. I mean, even cultures where they have
old school,
very different
is that a better
religions.
term?
Yeah, that's a good term for it. Sure.
But I think the toxic masculinity we see today is all just a descendant of that, because so many of our cultures around the world are from these religious bases. And so, and quote unquote old school, but a lot of Islam, Judaism, and Christianity are sort of the three biggest religions out there. And I think a lot of those religions, it's not a shocking thing to say that there's a lot of sort of gender roles as far as the male being in charge,
gender roles,
and the woman just doing what, like, the male is the boss essentially of the home.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of this stuff comes from. So maybe that's where I think this idea of toxic masculinity comes from, because it really does. I think a lot of this stuff does stem from this idea of the man being the boss of the home, which is a popular cultural expectation, true. I think, in most countries around the world historically. You mentioned some areas where that doesn't exist, but I think as a whole, regardless of the culture, that's a pretty common expectation. And I think a lot of that does come from religion or whatever sort of spiritual inclinations you might have. So that's my opinion. But what do I know? I'm an idiot. Did I say that, by the way?
I think we're both idiots here, Jared. That's for sure.
I just need to make that crystal clear.
Right.
And I'm sweating
horrendously. I think this has been a fun episode to, explore these gender roles a little bit, because they're definitely very different in different cultures. I think we could explore this episode a little bit more and talk more, because I didn't really touch on much of my observations that I wanted to talk about today.
Your observations? What do you mean?
Yeah, in terms of when I was living in China and the Czech Republic. And, here, let me give you a quick one.
Sure. I mean, we're already 2 hours in at this point. Who cares? Keep going.
Let me give you a 3-hour story now. It's not like I need to go to my final exams or you need to go to your work meeting.
We've already blown past the point where we're super... Oh, shit, you're right. I forgot about that.
Anyways, let me give you the quick one here, and then we'll end today's episode.
I do have some more. So we have a little bit of time though, but I forgot about that.
This was a gender role or stereotype that really surprised me a lot. I was sitting in my office in the Czech Republic with all the other teachers in my office. I was by far the youngest, and I was the only male in our office. And I think in the Czech Republic, from what I remember, I mean, it's hierarchical. It's not hierarchical like China or Korea, where, they really pay attention to hierarchy, but seniority still does matter. And I will never forget this. We were all drinking coffee during the break, and I went to get up to go wash my coffee mug. And Barushka, who sat next to me, she stopped me and grabbed the coffee mug out of my hands and said, "What are you doing? This is a woman's job." And I kid you not, this was a 60-something-year-old woman, a Czech woman. And when she said that to me...
Well, to wash my mug.
Is
that what you said?
I had the opposite reason, Jared. I was kind of pissed. I was kind of pissed because I was like, what? You don't think I can wash a damn coffee mug? Right. Like, it's literally, it's like soap and a sponge.
This is also one of the most simple things to wash.
Right, exactly. And so it was really funny, though, because after that, I felt so awkward after that experience, Jared. After that, I would always make sure to wait till she left for me to go wash my coffee mug.
So how are you supposed to handle that then? So if it's a woman's job and it's shocking to see you, are you supposed to leave it and just until a woman eventually does it? Or supposed to say like, hey, can you come over here and wash this? What am I supposed to do myself?
So what I did, as I told you, was I waited until she left the room, and then I would sneak out with my coffie mug to go wash
it. That's what you did, but I'm trying to figure out what her expectation for you is.
I guess I don't know. Put it on her desk?
Would you have been... I would be great if we could find out. Would you have been less disrespected, ma'am, if I were to have finished my coffee and come up to you and said, hey, wash my mug? Would that have made you feel better than me washing it here myself?
Now, I will say, I do think she was probably just trying to be nice and be cordial. I was newer at the school. It was probably week 3 of me being there.
That's I understand, but that's just a funny go-to. It's like that's the way you be nice. A man should not be doing this.
Right. Yeah, it's really crazy. But anyway, so that's one story. I've got other stories about China. We can save that for another episode.
Sorry, I just one more question about that. Mm-hmm. At that point, did you just put it in the sink and just walk away until she left? You're like, okay.
No, she took
washed it. She washed it.
She took it because the other thing was
And you
too,
just
she
stood
was
there and
going.
watched
She
her
was
wash
also
it.
going to wash her. Well, it was in a different room.
I see.
But she was going to wash her own cup. But
You know, it's so funny because I imagine, at my office, we have a communal coffee area. I can't even imagine such things happening where you're just like waiting for a woman to come around to wash your stuff.
Right.
Hey, could you wash this for me? I just imagine you're just like standing there in the kitchen,
so
just
fast.
looking around. Someone's walking past, not even going to the kitchen. You're like, hey,
You start pointing at the dishes.
before you go to your meeting, could you wash my plate for me? Well, I can't be seen doing this myself. That's just ridiculous.
Right. Yeah, I think the idea of, and I will say, even in China and other more quote unquote traditional countries, I do think that this idea of men and women, like this is a woman's job, that's a man's job, I think that is slowly changing. And overall, I do think that's a very good thing, right? I think the idea that men can't cook is ridiculous. The idea that women can't fix a car is ridiculous as well.
I just feel like it's very limiting on our progress as society to sort of limit people's roles in life. Or it's like we could be so much further ahead if you just let people do whatever they want, and then it just, I don't know, it leads to, I think, a lot more creativity, both artistically and professionally, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. For sure. Well, let us know what your thoughts are on gender roles around the world, because they certainly are very different and have some different connotations and thoughts to them. I do like these types of episodes, Jared, because I do think you and I have very different perspectives about a lot of these things. So it was fun to talk about them. You've definitely opened my eyes and changed my perspective a little bit.
Likewise, Chad. It goes both ways.
You don't think I'm a crazy conspiracy theorist who wears tinfoil on my head all the time.
No. I don't think you're a conspiracy theorist, although I do enjoy it when Kevin Chad Samuels comes out.
Dude, next time I'll need to put on my glasses when I go full Kevin Samuels mode.
Get your wingtip shoes on.
Right? The good
Your
old
suit
bow
that's
tie.
about a size too small.
That's right. Get my bow tie, my cufflinks. You better believe it.
You got a big dick?
Have you seen some of his older videos?
I mean, I've seen a few of them, like the common ones, like with the get a big dick one, and then one with the woman where it's like, you want a 6-figure man, but you're old or whatever. What do you think you are on a scale of 1 to 10? You know,
and you can't say 7.
And there,
One of the funny ones is he had one episode about like grooming for men. And I shit you not, pun fully intended here, Jared. He's talking about wiping your booty. Like, it was just so funny. The sad thing is there are some dudes out there that probably need to watch that video. And get
I don't understand. What about wiping your, that they don't do it
that
well
you need
enough?
wet wipes. You need some type of wet wipe or something.
I disagree. I'm a
you
bidet
gotta
guy
kind of
myself.
get in there is one thing he was talking
What the hell,
about.
Chad? Why you bring, what the hell?
It was because it's funny. It's funny. It's just ridiculous.
Oh my God. You know, it's funny. This episode started talking about peeing outside and it ended with you talking about the proper wiping techniques. And I disagree. I say, no, I disagree with wet wipes wholeheartedly.
Well, you're a bidet guy.
Wet wipes, yeah, but it's not only that. Wet wipes are terrible for the environment because they don't break down very well.
That's why you need to get some biodegradable ones. They make them.
No, you need to get a bidet. That's what you need to get.
Yeah. Until we run out of the water, Jared, and then it's gonna be tough.
Yeah,
Slim
we have
pickings.
bigger problems at that point.
Anyways, hit me with this song though, Jared. This has been a fun episode. I appreciate all of your insights today.
Oh, Jesus Christ, that's the old school
coming in
version.
hot. All right, I like it.
It's also the wrong one. It's the old school one. Remember this one?
It's okay. We can.
No, I don't like it. I don't like it. It's also not long enough.
All right, fair enough. Anyways, let us know what your thoughts are on gender roles in different countries and cultures. Let us know what your thoughts on toxic masculinity and toxic femininity are as well at untranslatablepodcast@gmail.com. You can slide into those DMs on, where can you slide into those, Jared? On
Untranslatable
Stitcher.
Podcast on Instagram. You can slide into those DMs on Untranslatable1,
on Twitter. Thank you.
And you can also let us know, by the way, who's right? Answer on our Instagram. Who's right? Me or Chad? Is it okay to pee outside at campsites? Chad says it's common courtesy. I don't think it really makes a difference because I don't think the pee causes that big of a smell. Let us know. Slide into those DMs.
There we go. So as we say here at the Untranslatable Podcast, dziękujemy, muchas gracias, shisha, and do svidaniya. Woo! I was not expecting this one to be as long as it was.
No, me neither.
But this was a fun one.
But I guess I'm not surprised. I mean, you love this.
It's fun to talk about these types of issues.
This.
Yeah. Because I do think, it's interesting to talk about what is masculine, what is feminine, what does this even mean,
I think my challenge is, and I get caught up in the idea of talking about masculinity or femininity and like these binary scales. Know what, I think why it bothers me, because there are some podcasts out there that I would say I generally enjoy, especially and mostly coming from white people, and it really freaking bothers me when I hear white people be like, well, black people do this or black people do this. Like, first of all, you don't know what you're talking about, and I just hate hearing those broad generalizations, because it's like you first of all, you know nothing about what black people do or whatever, and second of all, like what a crazy broad generalization. So I just get so nervous in general when I say like, well, men do this or women do this, because I know how I feel when I hear it regarding like races and stuff personally.
Sure. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's always risky to put blanket statements out there, for sure. But I do think there is some validity to them. But you're right. I mean,
sure.
Yeah.
I don't want to. And I guess there is a line, because I don't want to make it seem like there's no difference. But it's just when we get into like the minutia, it's like, is that a difference, or is that just something that you've experienced? I don't know. Not even specifically. I'm just talking about in general.
I gotcha. Anyways, dude, you got your meeting.
It's actually at 8:30.
Oh, nice.
So I have to